This is SaaS Therapy.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of SaaS Therapy, the show where we help you save your most important business relationships, your customers. I'm your host, Todd Kirk. I am joined by my newly golfing compadre, Casey Trujillo. Now, I say newly, I think he's been golfing for a while, but the fact is, I think he's getting more serious because have you ever noticed how golfers will sometimes go through practice strokes when they're just standing in meetings and stuff? He started doing that. I've never seen Casey do that, and now he's doing it all the time in meetings, so he must be trying to get serious. But Casey, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great, and for those that are online seeing me, I am not in a prison cell. I'm just in a bad office with bad lighting. So, yes,
so if he gets bored, he might start standing up and,
Oh, that's fair too.
That's fair too.
That's super true. Yeah. And yes, you are seeing a mustache on my face, and it is horrendous. But hey, just it's a midlife crisis. I'm turning 50. We are joined, TK, today by we love all our guests. Our guests are phenomenal, fantastic. Again, they've helped us get high onto the ratings board of this podcast. And thank you for everybody that is liking and subscribing to us. But we're actually joined by a guest that we really, 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 really know.
It's true. I was just looking at this, Casey. You realize we've known Jacqueline for almost 9 years.
Yes. And I actually was one of the hiring managers when Jacqueline came on board. I was hoping to get her to come over into sales, and I was overruled by another person. So I still have that heartache in my life. But Jacqueline, thank you for joining us today.
And just for those of you who don't know, we are interviewing today Jacqueline Sayler. Jacqueline is an enterprise account manager, CSM extraordinaire. She's amazing. We love her. In fact, her name, if you're curious, you want to look her up. It's not spelled sailor like the sailor on a ship. It's spelled like Slayer, but with the letters mixed up. So a lot of us here call her the Slayer because she really is just that awesome. It's like she's going to go slay all the demons and win all the battles because she really is that awesome.
This is fantastic. So Jacqueline, welcome. We're going to get started today with something that most people in customer success do not enjoy. And you might not enjoy it. That's okay. That's way okay. But one of the hidden talents, and I know you're going to say you're not great at it, you're not good at it because you're a humble person and that's why everyone loves you. But Jacqueline, when it comes to negotiating a renewal, when you first started in this role as a CSM, what was your comfort level? And where is it now? And how have you changed that?
My comfort level starting off was like 0. If I had to put a number to it, it's uncomfortable. Talking about money can be uncomfortable. There's so many unknowns going into those conversations that can just make you feel uncomfortable, or you're not sure what questions to ask to uncover those unknowns. And so that was probably the thing I was the most concerned about or fearful of going into a position like CSM. But now I feel a lot more comfortable because I've come to the realization that this is a business relationship. You're purchasing our product. I'm here to help you get the most ROI on that product, and I'm proving that out with you. We're working together to do that. So let's talk about what that costs and what that entails. And I think that it can be a really natural conversation when you come to that realization that we can be friends. I can love working with you, but we are here because what you're spending on this product pays for my job too. And so let's make sure that we're in a place where you're getting return on that investment, and that investment is fairly paid.
Oh, that's so good. I think there's a lot of people in the CS world, Jacqueline, who probably still feel uncomfortable about money and talking about renewal and cost and anything with their customer. And a lot of the time, I think it's because people in the CS world don't come traditionally from a sales background. And so you didn't either, right? Initially, when you started here, you were really more like would you say a project manager is probably like a more apt description of what your job was? And so that's a pretty big shift when you're going from my job is just to make sure that stuff gets done and that we deliver the thing we promised the customer. And now it's but now I also am responsible for talking about what our relationship looks like from a commercial perspective. So, but I'm curious, do you feel like your lack of confidence at the beginning came because it was just like it was something you hadn't really done before, or is it just like what was it that was made it difficult at the beginning to make that mental shift to actually have to start having those conversations with customers?
I think a lot of it came down to experience for me. I didn't have a lot of experience in selling our product. I didn't have a lot of experience in what were the common objections
Mm.
to why you wouldn't want to pay that for our product or why you wouldn't want our product or what have you. And so it came down to I just needed a little bit more experience, or I needed some talking points or just some understanding about kind of where could things go awry. And you're going to have things go off the rails no matter how much you plan, no matter how much you know about the product, no matter how passionate you are about the product. But just kind of having my prep in order, I felt a lot more confident going into the conversation. But I think where I gather the most confidence is in our product. I believe in our product. I believe in what we're doing. I believe that it's worth what it's worth and what I'm asking you to pay. And so that's where I feel a little bit more comfortable, like, let's meet you where you're at, but knowing like we both know that this product is worth what we're asking, but where can we find that flexibility for what you need?
Okay. So many nuggets, and that's my favorite part is, and sometimes I don't even think our guests know the nuggets that they're dropping on everybody. So I want to recap this really fast for everybody. So yes, when I was interviewing Jacqueline, she had some sales experience, but not sales experience in a B2B relationship, right? But the one thing that Jacqueline always had was confidence, and I felt her confidence. And I think when you just heard Jacqueline give her answers, you felt the confidence in her product, the confidence in what my time is worth, the confidence in this is a relationship, and the customer expects this, right? I'm not hitting them out of the blue with something that they have not dealt with other CSMs that they're working with SaaS contracts, right? Jacqueline, where is that confidence born from? Is it born from experience? Have you just tuned your brain into hearing the successes of product? Because everybody has product issues, everybody has some product
Mm-hmm.
failures. How have you gained that confidence? And it's always been with you that I've realized, but talk to me about where has that been born for you? Because I think that's probably, if I could give my advice and going in and consulting with the CSM team, to me, I see a lack of confidence displayed when it's around all these challenges that they see, all these problems that they see.
Mm-hmm.
And highly confident people say, yeah, that's there, but this is what we're going towards. This, they see the bigger picture. So, Jacqueline, where's your confidence been born from?
So you mentioned a previous role of previous retail sales role, and anyone that's worked retail, um, where you're just really promoting products face to face, you get a lot of no's. And so I think a lot of my confidence is born in being okay with getting no. And no just means no right now or no to some aspect of the deal, but that doesn't mean no forever, and that only means no in this context. So what is the other context I need to know, or what is the rest of the story we need to talk about so that we can get to a yes?
Oh, see, another awesome nugget there. I think so many people are so afraid of rejection that they can't stomach it, and they do everything they can to avoid it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, as a person who on my own in my own world, I didn't come traditionally from a sales ground either, and so I typically hate it whenever someone tells me that they don't think my product is the most beautiful thing, or that I'm the best and smartest and most amazing contact they've ever had. And what I think the danger that a lot of CSMs can run into is the desire to set themselves up to never, to basically try to almost run from any pain that might exist. And so they only even work on the stuff that they feel comfortable with rather than pushing into that unknown territory. So as an example, over the years, I would say like we've had to change how we've sold and the things that we've presented to customers. And so like when you're asked to now tackle a new problem or approach the product or the offering in a new way, like how do you because I loved your whole point of like when I had to move into sales, now I had to just I had to figure out how to gain that confidence for myself. So I just dug in really deep. I learned all the questions. Basically I wasn't afraid of rejection. So I went to go find out what those things were so I could find the answers and feel more comfortable. So when the product has changed and the expectations on you have changed, what have you done to rebuild that confidence and then move into a new, stronger position over time?
I think one of the things that I've done is not shy away from role playing. I think in sales roles, it's really easy to, just like negotiation, it's really easy to be uncomfortable about being that vulnerable with your coworkers or especially with your direct manager. Role playing has allowed me to kind of refine how am I going to say it out loud. It's a lot different when you're walking through it in your head and you want to have a tough conversation with a customer or you want to show them something new. If you've not practiced it, if you've not fine-tuned it, you can't then process kind of, I like to think 10 steps of my 10 steps ahead of my customer, 10 steps ahead of, thinking, what are the questions they're going to ask? What are the problems they're going to find with this? What context do I have about this customer that's going to tell me, that can kind of provide me some warning signs in advance of why this will land, why it won't land? How can I either avoid those landmines or address them up front and crush them so that we're just past that in a heartbeat? And so role playing for me is key. And that can be as simple as like I get on a meeting alone and I record myself and I drop that recording into AI and I tell it to just rip me apart. What am I doing right? What am I doing wrong? What are, and get real, what are the questions this customer is going to ask me? What are the questions I'm not thinking of? Where did I waver? Where did I appear nervous? So role play with yourself, role play with your partner, role play with your coworkers, like be vulnerable, because if you can do it in those most uncomfortable situations, you can do it flawlessly with a customer.
Oh, that's awesome. Again, awesome, Jacqueline. This is so good. Okay, because we know Jacqueline, we know what she does, and it's unlike sometimes when we have other guests, and again, a guest might give us some information, but I'd never seen them apply that information. So what we want to do, and Todd, I think on this one, we both need to be off mute on this one to keep this going in a way that flows. We're actually going to go through a recent renewal that Jacqueline had. And it was a big renewal. It was probably one of her bigger renewals. And so Jacqueline, I want to go through this whole thing and just ask you questions around, okay, tell us the story. We're going to go through it. Todd and I might interrupt you throughout it and just have you explain things. I think we want to spend a majority of the time going through a real experience because we know you went through it. All right. So Jacqueline, let's set this up for everybody. This is one of your largest renewals, if not the largest renewal that you were going through, right? And we're about ready to come up on this renewal. How are you feeling about the renewal? And what was the first bit of information or contact that you got from procurement about the renewal? So where did you feel it was sitting? And then when you got your first notification from procurement about the renewal, what was their response and how were they feeling?
From like on paper, outside perspective, we were in a great spot. I mean, stellar. Okay. We had increased adoption of our product, and as a result, many other products in a great way. We were using the platform in new ways, strategic ways. We were bringing more use cases to the table. We were bringing more champions of the platform and admins to the platform than ever before.
This is a green account. This is all
everything looks
all
green.
KPIs are saying this is on board. Okay.
Exactly. But I'm somebody that I'm, the rug could be pulled out from under you at any time. So I'm very hesitant. I'm very careful. I'm not going to jump the gun and say, we've got it in the bag. And the first kind of reach out from procurement, made that kind of set the stage for that as well. Hey, we want to look at 1 year. Hey, we're, just send this over. This is what we want to do. And it was less users, even though our adoption is growing rapidly. And it was less dollars and it was less time. We're looking at 1 year instead of 3 years when historically we've been 3 years. And so that kind of rocked the boat a little bit or solidified, okay, we've got some work to do here.
Okay, Jacqueline. Whew, okay. I'm already getting anxiety, and I know the ending to the story is like watching a movie, and you're like, how does this end? Okay. How are you feeling? How are you feeling about telling your manager? How is your manager feeling about it? Like, because again, there's so many things at play in this. We're still human beings, right? So if I'm your boss, I'm thinking, well, this is our biggest renewal. We can't lose this renewal. It's better to get something than nothing. Like everybody has their thought process,
Yep.
and they sway from let's challenge to let's just take what we can get. Okay, first interaction, you're getting this communication. How are you now feeling? How is management feeling? And again, there's no rights or wrongs. This is just how do human beings react and what's their initial reaction. So to build the story, keep telling us what how you're
Yeah.
feeling. How's your manager feeling?
Yeah, management, it's very much, this is an important account. We want to work with them, see where we need to meet them at. Still kind of discovery phase, like
Okay,
reiterating,
I
this
like
is
that.
important, but let's learn more.
I like
Like
that.
what and is that really what they're thinking, or is procurement playing hardball? Because we know there can be quite a disconnect between here's what procurement thinks they need and here's what our admins really need and how they're really using the product. So um, I was kind of in battle mode. I was like, okay, you're gonna do that? Let's go. Like let's have a conversation. And primarily that was because I knew the work that we had done. I knew the
Mm,
success that we were having, and I could see the 10 steps ahead of what we were going to do next. And we
Mhm.
had plans to do things next. And so I was fairly confident in, okay, you can bring that to the table and that's fine. That's what you want. But let me show you why that you should have other considerations, why we need to open your view a little bit, and why a larger investment is going to get you this return that you're really asking for.
Well, and I would guess on a day to day basis, Jacqueline, when you're in these conversations, there's leadership, there's economic buyers and stakeholders, there's procurement, but then there's also the people that you work with on just a day to day basis. Like how were your like everyday contacts feeling, and were they giving you like all the everything is great and everything's good, or like how did they get pulled in this whole process too?
Yeah. They were quite a bit removed. They were kind of aware of what was happening and then hearing tidbits from me of what was happening. Um, but it was business as usual for them. I mean, they were going to
mm.
we were continuing to use the product, and what was the next initiative and what was the next team we were going to roll this out to. For them, it was like, we're going to keep working, and you'll figure that out, Jacqueline, and they'll figure it out, leadership.
That's the worst, Jacqueline,
Oh, that's so rough.
when you don't get any insider info and they're like, "Hey, you'll figure this out." So, Jacqueline, you talked earlier about how when you're role playing, you would even put it in AI and have it, ask it for feedback. What are all the places as you're coming back with your response when someone's saying, "Hey, we want to limit the amount of time, amount of licenses, amount of dollars"? You're reviewing the ideas with management? Are you asking AI to assist you with you to give you some different thoughts? Like, what's your mindset, and what do you start to do as you're thinking through these 10 steps ahead?
Well, in this procurement individual preferred to um, meet in person, kind of cut down your ideas in person, but then only follow up via email.
Mm,
And so I had to find ways to kind of land where we weren't able to maybe cover the ground that I wanted in person, land it in the email without just word vomit, so much information. And so that's where AI helped me the most is, I helped frame the conversation with AI by saying, here's my role, here's what I'm trying to accomplish, here's who I'm working with and where I think they're at, here's what we've done. So I really laid it all out there for AI. Like, here's the scope of this relationship. Here's what I'm trying to tell them they need. What do you think? And how would you put this? Would you put this in a table? Would you put it just in body text? How can I
mm,
make this consumable? And then the real trick with AI, and where I felt like I got the most assistance, was poking holes in it. It's real. AI
Mm.
is so loving. It's so great at just telling you, like, you've done awesome, great work, Jacqueline. And you know what? maybe I'm not that awesome and I'm not that perfect. Tell me where I'm wrong,
Yeah.
So all the time I'm like, that's too long, or that looks off, or that sounds weird. And again, you're right, Jacqueline. Let's make it sound this way. And
Right.
so just being willing to poke holes in it and refine until you're like, this is the best possible response I could give. And
Okay, we got to pause on that because again, this is just a conversation outside. We're going to go out of this role play. Well, not a role play; it's a real situation. But isn't it funny that I think one of the reasons why people are falling in love with AI so much is I can treat AI however I want, not worry about them getting upset or hurting their feelings. And AI is
Mhm.
going to come back the way that we want to be treated and be like,
yeah,
you're right. Let's do this. Let's look at that. It is amazing that maybe in negotiations, sometimes to keep us emotionally stable, maybe that's a way that we should look at it when we're having the conversation is how do I have an AI type conversation with someone? That is fascinating. Sorry, that's just a
Well,
total
oh, actually,
tangent.
that's a really interesting point. Well, so to your point there, Casey, I think like if you were to treat your customer the way the AI treats you, is that better or worse?
Yeah.
Right. That's a really interesting question because I think in your case, Jacqueline, in some ways you can get frustrated with AI because you're like, I know you're helping me, but you're also helping me in a way that makes me feel like you're lying to me. And
Mm.
so the fact that you can when you go to a customer, right, what they want is they want a lot of times they'll say they want straight talk, right? But they also still kind of want you to like
Yeah.
make them feel warm and fuzzy and tell them they're the best and all their ideas are great. And then balancing that can be really, really tricky. And it's a very human skill that I'm not sure AI knows because AI always defaults to like be super kind and respectful. And sometimes you actually like the most human thing to do is actually to like push back more directly. And so like I'm curious how you balance that. I don't know. Maybe I don't know if that's where you're going with that, Casey, but I think that's a
No,
curious
it was just a
curious
fascinating side note.
side
She's talking
side
about
note
having
there.
this AI conversation. I'm like, man, what if I was a better person when the colleague said, hey, the challenge with this is this, and I'd be like, yeah, you know what? You're right. I could see how you could see that. What if I redid it this way? What are your thoughts on that? Like, it just seems like a little bit more human than how I should
You're
act as
saying
a
you're saying you think if you
person.
copied AI, you'd be more human,
I
Casey?
think I might be a little bit more human at times because then you get so emotional with your pride and you're like, dude, you're not even seeing this straight. Let me walk you through why I'm right and why you're wrong. Like, it might be interesting sometimes to take that step back. Okay, sorry, let's get back to the movie. So, Jacqueline, you're now using AI, and I think you did something unique with AI. I think there's someone that you also like, that Todd and I like, that you asked to also say, hey, put this type of tone to it, put this type of voice to it. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, a couple years ago, BrainStorm as a company read the book Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss, I think it is. And that really stuck with me. And um, the more I reread that book, the more I lean into those practices, the more that I see that it works, that I can have, more productive negotiations. And so I asked AI to incorporate that, and I asked AI to help me uncover things. What are questions I need to ask to uncover black swans, unknown content,
Mm,
unknown information? But really, when it came down to it, I wanted to make sure when you're sending something via email, and there can be, uh, a language barrier or things of that nature. Like, I wanted to make sure that what I was trying to say was coming across effectively, what I
mm,
meant was coming across, and in a way that could move the conversation forward rather than stand still. Let's wait until you respond back. We kind of are making progress at each phase. And I feel like incorporating um, Chris Voss's techniques really did that, because it's very conversational in a way that it's empathetic to what the customer needs and where they're at. It's honoring kind of their stance, while also opening up a line of questioning to where do we go next, and
mm,
and how am I to meet you there.
mm,
Okay, so Jacqueline, I'm curious in this process, right? So I love that you mentioned the procurement guy, right? Playing hardball a little bit, it sounds like. It's like they're not even invested in the software, but they're invested in getting the best possible deal for for their company, right?
Oh, yeah, he had never heard of our software. He was
Mm.
new to the organization. And so there wasn't a lot of time or interest for that matter in let's get you up to speed with how
Yeah.
embedded this is and how awesome it is and all the things we're doing.
Right.
Right, right. Okay, so here's the part that I'm curious about. So you mentioned the fact that they like to hop on calls just to kind of like maybe almost belittle your ideas, and but then all the real collaboration felt like it was happening asynchronously in email. How frequently do you think you were talking back and forth with the procurement team? Is this like an everyday thing, every other day, like once a week? Like how often do you think you were talking back and forth with them?
I would say 2 to 3 times a week.
Okay.
We were sending emails back and forth, a couple phone calls in between, just to kind of give me an update or give me a quick, that won't work. Can you go back to the drawing board kind of thing?
Yeah. I want to get in on this part, Jacqueline. So you
Yeah.
craft it, you go through it, you discuss this with your manager. I'm sure the manager is like, okay, everybody's kind of holding their breaths a little. You're confident. Maybe your manager's confident. I don't know. I remember being managers in these situations and being like, oh man, here we go. Like how, again, your brain, just because you're natural, you're like, how am I going to report this back to my boss if this goes sideways, right? So you send off that first communication to procurement. You've crafted everything the way you want to. You feel like it's the voice you want. You're trying to discover new things. What's the response back? Does it change? Are they saying, "Hey, still give me the same quote. I want the same quote," or does it open up a little bit? What's the first reaction if you can remember?
The first reaction is like, that won't work. That doesn't work for us. And that's fine. I'm glad that you're sharing that. That takes one thing off the table. Now let's look at the other 50 plus ideas because again, I think it's in this same book. You can correct me if I'm wrong, Casey, where Chris Voss talks about once you get to a no, that kind of just opens up other opportunities. That doesn't mean no to everything. Like that just means no to this specific instance. And right now, I mean, you might agree to this thing later, but right now this is a no. So great, move that aside. Here's what we can do instead.
Okay. So what do you come back with? Again, I want to go through the human element of it because I think sometimes when we go through stories, we remove the human element of what everyone's thinking. You get that response back. Do you have that mindset where you're just like, okay, yeah, that one's not working. Let's go try another thing? Or are you at any point panicking a little bit saying, I should just give in and go with what they want?
Yeah. How do you know when it's time to just cave and just accept their terms, even if it doesn't feel right to you?
Yeah, and then what do you respond back? But give me the human element of like, what's your first initial reaction if you can remember, and then what do you go back with again? What's the next thing you do, and how do you prepare it, and how do you get it back?
I don't know that my initial reaction is appropriate for a podcast, but maybe some profanity and some like freaking come on, like
Yeah.
we're
Yep.
literally hitting this out of the park, pull it together. So I had to like rein that in, be
It's
professional, have a moment of that, take a day of that. Like it's okay that you feel that way. That's your human feelings. Like own that. Take a day to like put yourself in their perspective, understand where they're at, understand the lack of context that this individual you're working with has, and just dig in. Like that's kind of what I did is just dig in. Okay, then you're not understanding where I'm coming from yet. I'm trying to understand where you're coming from. Let's keep digging. Let's keep talking. Let's keep moving.
Are you going back to the same process? Do you go back to manager, AI, rewrite,
Yep.
come up with different
And I'm
options?
using the same conversation with AI. So they have all the previous context. I'm reminding it to use the previous context. Hey, here's how they responded. Hey, I had a call with them. Here's how they responded. What do you think? What am I missing? What am I not thinking of? How do I make sure this lands with somebody that doesn't have English as their first language? Where are their gaps in how I might communicate or things I might assume, just having it again, pick it apart and go back with, okay, here's what you want. Here's what I can give you. And it's like 90% of what you want, but here's what I need too. Right. And so digging in on here's what I would be willing to do. Here's what I want to give you what you want. I want this negotiation to be easy. I want you to keep being a customer. I want you to keep paying my paycheck. And so I'm going to meet you where you're at within the frame of what's fair or what's reasonable or what the business can do and what have you. So I went back to them with other options that were keeping in mind what they asked for, but maybe changed other aspects of the deal that I knew might be sticking points still. But you have to put that in front of them. By putting in front of them what they're asking for, it's okay to still have sticking points. You're not trying to get to perfection round 1, round 2, round 3 of negotiation. These are all conversation points to give you a little bit more context to get to the final round.
Jacqueline, one of the things that you did in these communications that I really enjoy, and I don't know where this concept came from. Shout out to my guy Spence Dean, who was one of my mentors. I don't know if it comes from MedPick or if it's something that he just picked up from a mentor, but he always talked about stress testing. So you want to put a little stress on it. Again, not that it breaks, but just to see where it's at. Can it hold it? And I remember you having a line in one of your communications where you're asking the customer, "Are you saying you can't do this?"
Yep.
And it was not about the contract itself, but around an aspect that you were asking for, right? And you said, "Are you saying that you're not able to do this?" Talk to me about that question and why that was so valuable to ask it that way. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
I think it's an opportunity to just level set. Like, I'm giving you everything you want, except you don't like how this one piece feels or how much it costs for what you want. So I think a question like that just kind of places them not on notice. That's a little harsh, but like, okay, you've got to answer to this. It just really says you need to answer this. Are you not willing to do this? Like, we've been going back and forth long enough that is a tactic that Chris Voss recommends in his book, to kind of just, we're kind of treading water at this point. I'm not getting enough feedback to cross maybe some new ideas off the list. So here's the best idea. I've told you why it's the best idea. It meets 8 of your 10 things that you need. Are you telling me you can't do that?
That's good. Todd, this is a masterclass so far in this whole experience. That's why I wanted everyone to see it of like, hey, this is coming from someone that started not being a CSM to then becoming a CSM to managing this contract and one of the biggest contracts that she had and how she's going about it. I mean, there's so many different things that you did that I'm like, okay, the average CSM is not doing this. Jacqueline, how does it end? And then tell us, what were the biggest takeaways that you had around the whole thing?
Yeah. I mean, it ends in a closed deal. I mean, surprise, that's where we were headed. That's what we all wanted. Ultimately, the procurement guy's response to, "Are you saying you can't do that?" is like, "Oh, no, we definitely want to partner with you. We can probably do that." And so that kind of just notified him, we're kind of coming to the end of the line here. We want to partner with you. Tell us what you can do if you can't do that. And so it was very clear at that point for him, like, okay, no, we can do that. We want to be a partner with you. We want to be a good partner. Let me go get the final approvals. And so ultimately BrainStorm got the deal that they wanted. The customer got a stellar deal that will really help our relationship grow. But more importantly, it'll bring them way more return on this investment. They're going to get so much success out of this. And that was really like, that was the joint goal that we all had. Like, we're all just trying to get you the most success out of this product. And so super ecstatic that we were able to do that for them and get them everything that they needed to be the most successful that they can be with our product.
Okay, so Jacqueline, part of the reason I love this story is because it's one of those like, it's one of those really hard situations, but it feels really confident. You feel confident that you can win because, one, you knew you were killing it already with the customer. You knew that everything was going really well, and you knew they still wanted to buy. So it was like really clear that like you had alignment with you all wanted an outcome. The negotiation was like obvious, right? The question was like, were you going to be able to get into alignment between what we needed or what you needed as a CSM and what the customer needed? What I'm curious, and I want to switch to a different context. I don't know if you have any examples on this one, because I knew this example specifically was one that was one that was really cut and dry. But how do you know if you are even in a position to be able to negotiate at all? Because that's one thing that I think a lot of CSMs probably really struggle with, where it's like, what if you're not really sure if your customer is really killing it? What if they've had a lot of frustration? And like, how do you know, how do you turn it into a negotiation when you're not even really sure? Because like this one was great, because it's like, I know I'm in a negotiation and I'm ready to go to battle. Whereas like, there are other places where it's like, I don't even know if I have a shot at negotiating at all.
Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts on that? I mean, I'm sure you've been in that situation where it's like,
Yeah.
you don't even know if there's like is the door shut, right?
Yeah.
And if it is open, how do I know when it's open? So does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I've been in a lot of those situations, and the the answer is kind of a tough one. It's you ask. You if you don't know, it starts by finding out. It starts by finding out early into the relationship. I mean, from early on meeting new customers, I'm letting them know my goal is to get them return on their investment such that they want to keep our product and renew. Like setting kind of the baseline there of that this is a business relationship where our goal is renewal at the end of the year. And checking in on that 6 months out, certainly 3 months out. Hey, are we in budget? Have you heard anything about that? But really what's important is understanding how does the customer see success? What are their success metrics with your product? So that you are working together and driving towards those. Is it license utilization? Is it, kind of some of the low hanging fruits, the low targets like views, or what is it that matters to your customer? It might not be the best thing for your product. It might not be how you deem success as a CSM, and you can work on those in tandem, but find out what the customer's goals are, meet those goals, so that when it comes down to negotiation, you can be in a position to say, you said this was your goal, here was the result. And you said something earlier, Todd, that stood out to me. It's kind of a common misconception that satisfaction is an indicator of a renewal. And that's just not the case. I have customers that provide me feedback, complaints, what have you, all the time. And that I would say they're no more or less satisfied than my customers that I don't hear those things from. And that's not an indication of will they renew. I will say how I respond to that can have a significant impact or some impact, and how I receive that information. But it really comes down to, what did they buy the product for? Are they using it in the ways that they intended? Are they getting a return on the investment? And am I helping them get that return, as maximizing that return? And do I know if we're in budget so that they can pay for that the next year and get more returns?
Yeah. Okay. So I love that, and I want to double down on something you said that I think is super good there, Jacqueline. So I think one of the things that can be really challenging, and I've seen a lot of CSMs who make this mistake, whereas they focus on the outcome that they think they're good at, or the outcome that they want the customer to want. And so I think one of the things that's really, really important in any sort of relationship is to really understand what your customer wants. And if that's not aligned to what you are currently delivering, you're in trouble, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't feel confident that you can or have the ability to give them that thing that they need, then you're probably also in trouble. So it's much better to fight a fight that you know what the actual fight is than to try to fight some other, made up fight that you give yourself, right? Like, oh, maybe they don't care about this thing that we're doing really well. They care about this other thing. And if I'm unwilling to actually discover and listen to and understand what that thing is, and then offer insights or ideas to resolve that issue, then you're never going to actually get to the renewal, because maybe the thing that they really care about, you just suck at. And if you ignore that too long, then you're going to be in a really big trouble long term. So I love that point. not being afraid to understand what their actual goal is and really figuring out what they care about. Because I do think some CSMs they're afraid to actually ask because they're like, well, what if the thing they care about is something I stink at or we can't do very well? Well, wouldn't you like to know that now rather than whenever they tell you they're not going to renew 6 months from now?
Well, and that also doesn't mean that you as a CSM can't accomplish your goals with this customer as well.
Right.
The customer might be focused on something that is like a lagging indicator or not even an indicator of renewal at all, something that is just either unachievable or is just not proof of any sort of success with your product. But if that's what they care about, you meet that success. And at the same time, you're nurturing all the other ways that you know that is going to truly bring them success. So, and kind of create more success in the long run.
Well, and that's a value that you can drive anyway, right? So the idea of like you being able to help them see that they should care about this other thing, right?
Yep.
So it's not that you just like abandon the things that matter, because maybe the things you're good at is super valuable and they aren't recognizing that. And you need to help them see, right?
Yep.
So you have to do both, right? Because I think all negotiation comes down to getting alignment around what the objective is. And so if your objective's over here and their objective's over there, you got to figure out how to bring those two things together eventually. So anyway, that was a random aside, but I think good one. Casey, you probably have other really good stuff to ask Jacqueline. I know we are running close to out of time here, but
no, I think we're at that point, Todd. I think this has been so beneficial. Jacqueline, thank you for your time and what you've brought here. And every episode of SaaS Therapy ends the same way. We ask our guests to be the therapist and to give a homework assignment to their patients. So Jacqueline, if you could give a homework assignment to our audience and have them go do one thing, what would be that homework assignment?
Ask your customers what they care about. Find out what is success to them and make it happen.
Okay. People are going to go, oh my gosh, Jacqueline, I do that all the time. Okay, here's one of the things that Todd and I, we like to say that we're excellent in change management. And the first part of change management is awareness. And so we have so many tools to help us with this. So for example, I'm going to give a personal vulnerable experience. It drives me batty when people in a presentation and they're giving a conversation with the customer and they go, did that make sense? Do you have any questions? I'm like, what a throwaway question. Like, yes, they're going to answer yes. They're going to say, oh, I don't have any questions, because nobody wants to look dumb. No one wants to say, Jack, I didn't understand anything you just said there, right? Like, no one wants to do that. And so they're like, yeah, and then they just go on their way, and then you don't even know. And then they're like, hey, that, you're not a good fit for us. And you're like, what? Like, you said yes to me the whole time. Drives me batty, right? Well, I went and did went and reviewed some gone calls of mine. Guess what I was asking? That question. It drove me nuts. So my point is, you heard that assignment from Jacqueline. A lot of you
just assume you're good at it already.
Don't assume you're good at it. Don't assume you're good at it. Go review your last 5 calls, your last 10 calls, and see if you do what you actually say you do. Because Jacqueline dropped so many nuggets, and I know some of them you're like, yeah, of course, that makes sense. But how often do you actually go and do it? Mm-hmm. Not too many people. So Jacqueline, that was awesome. Great job. That was fantastic.
Yep. Like I said, for those of you who don't know Jacqueline, she's not a big influencer out there, but she is one of the best. And we can say that because we've witnessed it in real life.
Amen.
Not just through fluff on LinkedIn. So Jacqueline, thanks for coming and joining us today. Everybody, if it's your first time here, welcome. We've been doing this now, Casey and I, for a few years, and we hope you have enjoyed coming on. Make sure that you leave us a review, leave us a like, follow us on YouTube or wherever you're listening to the podcast. We hope you come back and continue to join us. So thanks, everybody. SaaS Therapy is brought to you by BrainStorm, the SaaS platform for SaaS adoption. Learn more at brainstorminc.com.